And we are live with the one and only Lydia from the Drywall Shorty, or
Yes.
the Drywall Shorty. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good, very good. So that's super exciting. I've reached out to a couple of people that I really wanted to have on here, and you are pretty well at the top of that list.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, there's kind of a few people out there that have put out so much content, and they've kind of done so much help for the community.
Yeah.
So that's really cool, and it seems like there's no slowing down for that at all on your end, eh? It's pretty well consistent.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, I think joining the Build Show network has helped a
Mhm.
lot because I can kind of cover whatever topics I feel like that week. But a lot of it and most of it is actually driven from stuff I'm hearing from listeners or from followers, stuff that
Perfect.
people are messaging me and they're like, oh, I'm really struggling with this, or can you talk through this, or can you break this down? So it's been really fun because I'm able to kind of take those and instead of just having, really short 60-second videos, we can actually kind of delve into the topics. I can cover things in depth and then, it's there forever on the website. So you can always go find the content.
Yeah, some of that like more basic stuff. I don't think uh, people aim it at the correct audience. You know what I mean? Like it's very
Yeah.
clear when you're talking about really basic stuff, kind of who you're presenting it to, and it's super thorough. Somebody that's not scooped mud out of a bucket or whatever before, it makes sense for them to listen to it, right? It's yeah, that's really awesome. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
When we started this, we kind of talked like, okay, well, we can either show off and just run all automatic tools,
mhm,
or we can kind of break things down and kind of teach how we would teach, our own employees or whatever it is. Cause, running tools fast only helps so many people. And then at
totally.
that point, you're kind of just like showing off just for the sake of showing off. So we definitely took a different aspect with it.
Yeah, I've mentioned a few times on my Instagram stories that that once you kind of get to that high tier of taping, it's more or less like for the other top tier tapers of like how crisp everything is and like how
Yeah.
straight everything is. And for people that are really beginning, and I kind of am too. Like I'm still less than a year on the auto tools.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But I've taken to them pretty quickly, but it's that the tips and tricks, the stuff that you learn along the way. It's super helpful having content like that out there. The people that are messaging me and talking to me are usually people that like have not done anything, or we're tired of fighting with the tapers before we paint, so now we're going to start taping or whatever. And
Yeah.
and that beginner content is just so key. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
cool. The majority of your work, where's that coming from now? Like you must have a manager or somebody that's like uh finding it for you. Like I imagine you're so busy.
Yeah. So like work or like drywall shorty work.
Drywall Shorty work.
Yeah. Yep. So I have an agent. So I'm with
Ah,
Build Show and then they represent me in all the contracts. So it's nice because they kind of have that built-in construction group
mhm,
anyways with Matt and Reisinger and all those things. So it's a perfect fit. So if someone comes to me and they're like, hey, we'd like you to do this, then we just kind of work through the logistics of, okay, what are you looking for? What are you wanting to hit? And then we put together something for them that fits their needs.
that's awesome. Yeah,
Uh,
very cool.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about was people that are just getting started. I had a question that came up a week ago, I guess now, and it was how would you get started? Would you go union or would you go by yourself? And I had a couple of pretty good points about how quickly of a learner you are, and like the kind of funding that you have behind yourself. Like if you could pick up all your own tools and you have an avenue to meet one-on-one with someone and work with them, I kind of found that that was maybe a better way to learn than to join the union. But the union itself is such a good community to kind of learn the trade in. How do you weigh in on that?
Um, well, what's funny is we don't have union here.
Okay.
There was like so for when we started, it was all you just joined a crew. Like my dad owned the company, so I started with them, and then we started our own business. So there
Right.
was no union option, period. Like you couldn't join a union.
Hmm.
I was approached by the union. Oh man, when I first got on social, I was approached probably like 3 years ago, and they're like, you can go work union and you could make really, really good money.
Yeah.
And there was work in Seattle and then a couple other metro areas, and the pay was like phenomenal. I was like, that is,
Really?
and you get benefits, which
Right.
is huge. When you're self-employed, you don't get benefits, as we all know. You don't get paid time off, you don't get vacation. If you're hurt, too bad, so sad, pay it out
Hmm.
of your own pocket. So that was kind of like, wow, if I had had that option, maybe when I was about 5 years into the trade,
Yeah.
I probably would have gone that route. But being that it wasn't available and I didn't know anything about it, I've always just been self-employed, which is fine. It's great. It works for us. We have our own business. My dad's been self-employed. It's just how it works. But I really think it depends on, number one, how old you are. So
That's
if you're
true. Yeah.
just getting into the trade and you're young and you really think you're going to have a very long career, union might be better just because of all the benefits and everything you can get built up. If you're more of a self-starter and you want to go out and find your own work and you want to build your own company, then being self-employed is the way to go there. But being self-employed is not for the faint of heart. There's times where you're just like sitting on your thumbs and you're like, I was supposed to get paid. You told me the check was in the mail 2 weeks ago, man. Like, I
Yeah.
know the mail's not that slow. Or you wind up being so busy, you're running from job to job to job to job, and you're not even getting anything accomplished. So I really think sometimes it comes down to personality. Like, what's the best fit for you personally? Is it
Hmm.
staying small, local, building up that relationships with builders and homeowners and finding that niche? Or is it more, I just want to show up, I want to be told what to do, and I want to have my pay time off, I want to have my vacation. And it's really, I think, a very personal choice.
Definitely. I did when I started the company, I guess 2 years ago now. I knew that I had the skill set. I knew I had all the things that I wanted, and I didn't want anyone in my way anymore. So that kind of
Yeah.
made sense for me. And then I went like, I don't know, I think 4 months straight or something was the longest. And then you sit back and you're like, okay, this is ridiculous. I need some
Yeah.
time off. But even just trying to find that time off is crazy. Now you're in the States, so medical makes a big difference down there.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was probably one of the biggest things when we were looking at it, because the pay was so high. And then on top of that, you got your really, really good medical insurance. And then you got all sorts of other benefits too. So it
Mhm.
made it like close to, I want to say it was close to over $100 an hour with benefits, which was really freaking good.
That's pretty
Just like
amazing.
going off and just because it was for two of us. So like that pay for each of us. So I was like, wow, that's pretty dang good. So we were kind of like, should we do this? We really did think about it for a long time because um it was just like, man, to have vacation. And at that time when they
Mhm.
approached us, we were working like 6, 7 days a week, not
Yeah.
having any time off. We were just burnt out. And I think that's a hard thing too, that you have to realize is I think you'll get burnt out either way, even if you are doing union or if you're self-employed or working for somebody else. You have to be careful to pace yourself, because in this industry, it will eat you up and you will be sitting there at the end of 4 or 5 months and be like, I have
Yeah.
nothing left to give, but I have to because I have to make money. And if I don't go out and make the money, then I can't eat and I can't do all these things. So it gets overwhelming sometimes.
There's always, at least I always found that there was this like, you don't know if it's coming tomorrow mentality. So you just like
Yeah.
book yourself forever. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it just makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting. I imagine with the union that I talk about burnout a lot
Yeah.
because I absolutely hit it all the time, where you're sure that you're going to do more than you should be, and then you do more than you should be doing. Your sleep gets affected, your personal time gets affected, but it almost kind of comes in like a tidal wave right at the end there, and then you're just toast. And then you're kind of forced to take some time off, or you end up getting sick or that kind of stuff. I imagine that in something like the union, it's a lot more looked at. You know what I mean? Somebody's going to see that
Yeah.
you've been putting in 70 hours a week for a while, and they're going to tell you to settle down if they even allow it. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. If you're self-employed, man, you can work 150 hours, whatever, however many hours there are in a week. But you
yeah,
can go and you just can't go anymore. And then you totally wind up getting sick. That happens all the time. It's like,
yep,
okay, I don't feel great. And somebody has the flu now or strep or things get piled up. And yeah, burn this. And I think that's why, you know, having longevity in the trade is kind of rare. You run
yep,
into these people that are like, yeah, I've been doing it for 40, 50 years, but most people are like, I lasted about 10 years and then I moved on to something else, or I lasted,
Yeah.
15, 5, whatever, because you do get burnt out.
It does have to be kept fun. I find that, right? Where like if you're not enjoying a certain aspect of it, I'm super lucky because I can frame, board, tape, structure, everything,
Oh,
right?
nice. Yeah.
So it's typically if I'm gonna, unless I really know the framer, and I really inspect the boarding, I don't tape unless I frame and board it. Just because
Nice.
there's no surprises at that point, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
by the time you're done framing, you're like, oh, I can't wait to board this. And then by the time you're done boarding, you're like, okay, I can't wait to tape this. And then you get paid. So that's,
Yeah. No, it's
that's,
perfect.
yeah, it's kind of the perfect end of it. I would imagine if you were just strictly taping all the time, it would get exhausting, if you weren't trying to keep it fun, right? Uh,
Yeah.
like with all your content and stuff that you do, you must have like a timeline during the day that you film, or do you have like certain days of the week that you film, or?
No, pretty much what it is we just kind of grab out the phone and I'm like, hey, that's interesting. We should film this. Or hey,
Oh,
this
no
might
shit.
help somebody. Let's just, yeah. So essentially I'll just be like, oh, hey, we should do that. So I'll just pick up my phone and we'll just like shoot the thing for a minute and then we'll just go back to work.
That's
So we
brilliant.
literally just fit it into our workflow. Um, Sometimes there's special things that I'll do, but for the most part, I'm like, man, that's kind of interesting. We should show that process. Or, oh shoot, somebody asked me a question about that. I'm gonna film that really quick. So
Yeah.
we try and keep it as simple as possible because then that way it's authentic. We're literally on the job site, just grabbing a phone out for a minute or two. It makes it really easy to post when I keep it simple like that. And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing is like, this is literally what we're doing on site. So I'm just going to film it really quick. And then it makes it fun too, because sometimes we're like goofy or like, oh, I saw this challenge. I should try this today. Or I have one, I got to do left-handed still, but I need to do like a left-handed like screw spotting challenge or do something fun
Oh,
like
that would
that.
be
And
fun.
everybody
Yeah.
kind of, yeah,
You'd miss it. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
know, right?
that would be awesome.
Yeah,
I typically do the same thing. That's really fun that you do the same. That it, like you come
yeah, it
across
makes
something and
it
you're like, I
easy.
think somebody should see this. And then or if
Yeah,
it's something's really difficult, and then I kind of like
yes,
slow it right down, go through all the steps of like, it's not that difficult. Just take a breath and do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
No, I think
awesome.
sometimes just having somebody there that's been going through the same things you're going through, you're like, oh, that's how they do that. I get that a lot. Like, oh, I didn't think about doing it that way. Or, oh, that's okay. That's too thick or that's too thin, or I'm not having the right angle. And we were just in Kansas City doing some training. We went down to do a video for level 5 and then work with Travis and Joe, who also are Build Show contributors. And
Okay.
they're all mesh. They'll do like small stuff because they'll do remodels and they'll have their guys do the work. So they'll do
Oh,
like mesh and hot mud, but they have a set of level 5 tools.
right.
So they have no idea how to use them. Nobody
Oh
has any
no.
idea how to use them. So it was super fun because they had to come down and be like, okay, well, this is how you do this. This is how you do that. And they got to get hands on and we're all standing there and being like, okay, well, no, just change your angle, like just a touch, or just do this a little bit differently. And, you know, the majority of us don't have somebody there telling us that. So
Yeah.
I think videos and social media go a long way to helping and try and getting things figured out for people that are struggling.
There's no way I would be taping if it wasn't for social media. There's just no
Yeah.
way. It's
Yeah.
like I've kind of taken on to the tools pretty quickly. Like I pick up things pretty quick, but
Yeah.
all the little things, like
Yeah.
the things that you would have to like develop over time by failing. It's kind of those little shortcuts. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I think it's all for. I get comments about guys that are just happy that there's a community now where
Yeah.
they, when you start to feel lost on a site, you don't have to just feel bad about it. You can pick up your phone and look at someone's page like yours, and a
Yeah.
couple of swipes and you pretty much are there. Like the range of content that people like you are putting out is amazing. And then when you
Well,
get onto YouTube, it's long form,
yes.
and that's huge. At least it is for me for learning.
Yeah. I think it's what's nice is with all the social media, there are different ways to learn. So depending on what amount of time you have, how in depth you want someone to go, what your attention span is at the moment, is it 30 seconds or is it 30 minutes?
Yeah.
So that's what's nice about that is you can kind of pick and choose. Okay, I really need to sit down and try and figure out this thing, and I need to take the time and invest into this video right now, or I just want to see something really quick to help me. And I think probably one of the coolest things is drywall is really closed off. Nobody comes and shares. You're not going to have
Yes.
another drywall contractor come on your site and show you their tips and their tricks. If another contractor's on my job, I'm like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Scurry on your, I'm not telling you my secrets, but what's really cool is all of this has really opened it up to everyone sharing different pieces and different tidbits. And one thing that's kind of like hard about sometimes is people will call you like a hack or like you did that wrong. But just because you're not doing it that person's way doesn't mean it's wrong. So hopefully that'll start changing and opening up the discussion a lot in the trade, because I feel like there's so many people that are closed-minded, like, you didn't do it my way, so it's wrong.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I did it my way, so maybe your way is wrong and my results are better, but we won't get into that. We'll just kind of have mutual respect for each other. How about we try that? You know?
There's a lot of ego, I think, on social media out there, and it's not, at least I find it's not from the people that are putting in the work on social media. It's the people that are watching, and there's nothing wrong with that. There has to be a devil's advocate for everything, but that, like, let's all treat each other with respect. It's just, sometimes these people just do not want to do it. On Facebook, there's a drywall mentors group, and I just reached out to Facebook because I've been nobody on there. Like, I've got a copy paste of my Instagram, but it doesn't do the reels, and it's I wanted to have a little bit more of a presence. And that group, the other groups I won't mention, almost immediately you get jumped all over. And it's it's from people that aren't posting their work, and they're, not to say, to me, if I say a carpenter, I don't mean a person that could frame a wall. I mean a person that can go do everything from putting in a hardwood floor to building a jewelry box, right? Once you've kind of mastered something, that's your class. So like a quote unquote drywaller to me is somebody that can steel frame, somebody that can finish, somebody that can, you've got the whole array of everything. You could read prints. And the guys out there that are 30-year drywallers, you're 30-year drywall hanger, right? Or whatever. So, kind of talking down on people with limited experience is just so tough.
It's frustrating. I think I have a pretty big page on Instagram, it's almost, or on Facebook, it's almost 500,000, which is weird. And yeah, it's really big. So I'll have things blow up on there, but it's hard because it gets very negative. I've noticed Facebook for sure is everybody will tell you how wrong you are. But what they don't know is there's so much stuff going on behind the scenes of DMs I'm asking or answering, questions I'm answering, time I'm taking out of my day to help people. Like, it's not done. And I think people are like, oh, social media is just like blah, blah, blah. No, there's actually like so much more that goes into it that we're doing behind the scenes, that we're trying to help people. And, I think sometimes people kind of have like a negative view of it or a bad view of it, but the majority of us that care about it and are trying to make things better, it's a large portion of our time. It's like, I come home and then, okay, I'm sitting through and I'm looking through DMs and I'm like, oh man, I didn't get back to that person. Or this person messaged me like a week and a half and they had a really like question they needed an answer to. And I feel bad because I'm not getting back to them right away. So it's kind of like, I wish people would just have a little bit more perspective or like a more of a view of, let's make this better generally as a community, which will then make people want to join the trades, which will then help everything, because we need people and nobody's going to want to come and do this if everybody's being mean.
You hit it right on the head there. That was going to be my next comment of how are we supposed to get all of these young people to come in when every time they ask a question, there's a tidal wave of you're an idiot. And it's like, they're inexperienced, and we all
started somewhere.
We all were.
We all ask those stupid questions. I mean, you're going to tell me you picked up a knife and like, or a hawk or whatever it is, or trowel or whatever it is you're using, and you were just like, you were as good as a 30-year-old veteran the first
right off the bat. No way.
It's like, come on, guys. Like, let's have like, remember we all started somewhere and everything was not great when we first started. So it's okay. It's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to keep things simple, because I mean, we always need it. We're always going to need the simple instructions.
Totally. We're going to start focusing on doing things like that. The guys from the three-way and I are doing a lot. They're great, Royce and they're. I'm on the phone with Steve. He's actually coming here Friday. He's going to
Oh,
take a
that's
look at the
awesome.
YouTube stuff, and then we're going to start reaching out to other companies about that big gap, which with training someone is how much money they cost at the beginning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then how do you implement something like the three-way where you can get a brand new guy in there using
Mm.
it and kind of paying his way, you know, like if they
Yeah.
could start eliminating three-ways, that's a pretty massive undertaking for the site. And then you can
Yeah.
teach them. But when there's downtime, you could send them to go put some three-ways in or whatever. That it's I
Yeah.
think this year there's going to be a lot more focus on how do we get new guys in, how do we make them feel at home. uh I just that's a big part of like the quote unquote community that I kind of want to focus in on a little bit this year.
Yeah. Well,
um
we need it. I mean, it's
Desperately.
hard.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the hard part is when you do have an employee, they're really not making money for probably about 3 to 6 months. Like
Hmm.
they're just kind of there and you're like, no, you're not doing that right. Start over.
Yeah.
Um, most guys within 3 to 6 months also decide if they like it or not.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how many guys have been there for like 3 months. They're like, nope, peace them out.
Yeah.
And you're like, but you were just, remember, we just started getting good here. Like we
Yeah.
just started, so I didn't have to sand your work to like high heavens. Like, come on, like stick with it. You got it, And then there's the guys that are 5, 6 years in, but then sometimes you get those guys on your crew and they've been taught one way from another person and they don't like your system.
Yeah.
So it's really tricky sometimes finding good. I mean, it's only my husband and I, and it's only us two for a reason,
Yeah.
because we've done all this and we've worked with all these different people from different walks in finishing. And it's just like, we have our system, we're
Hmm.
fast, we make money, let's just stick to it and keep it simple.
At the end of the day too, there just isn't going to be not the love, I guess, but the attention to things when it's not your site. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And then bringing somebody
Right.
else in and expecting them to do that is a little bit of a tough thing for me too, right? To find someone that's going to be as serious is very difficult right off the bat, but then to train someone, it's got to be mentally exhausting and it's got to be overwhelming. And then on top of that, you want somebody to be focusing really hard as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's tough. Yeah, it's got to be tough.
Yeah. Well, it
I
has
would.
to change though. It definitely has to change because we need
Oh, totally.
people.
Yeah, and I don't think it has to. I do enjoy that. Uh, the community's becoming a nicer place. I remember what it was
Yes.
like on sites 15 years ago, and it was rough.
Yeah.
Everybody was really shitty, but
Yes, they
that's
were.
that was a good way to learn for me. But there is this like everybody be kind with a soft voice and that kind of stuff, and I don't feel like that's what we need to bring people in. I think we just need that patience.
Yeah,
If you're
absolutely.
if you're rough around the edges, there's nothing wrong with training people being a little rough around the edges. You just
Yeah.
can't be abusive, and you have to take a deep breath every once in a while and understand that they're a puppy.
Yeah. I
They'll.
know. Just having an attitude of like not getting upset at somebody because they ask you a question that, yeah, duh, it's second nature to us because we've all been in the trade for so long. But
Yeah.
you throw somebody new in there, they're like, what's going on here? Why did this do this? What did I do wrong? I mean, and just not jumping down their throats and calling them idiots because they don't
Yeah.
have it figured out. I mean, none of us had it figured out at the beginning. So just I've talked about women in the trades and like what do they need? What would
Hmm.
be good for them? And I don't think it necessarily is like even women specific. I think just people coming on site, we need to teach them and we need to have patience and we need to
Yeah.
know like, hey, they're not going to know what all of these things are or how to use them right away. And
Hmm.
that's okay. Let's take them, let's train them like the person that trained us did, but
Yeah.
maybe be a little gentler, a little bit nicer,
A little bit.
and just invest and not get mad at somebody because they don't have everything figured out the minute they walked on the site when they've actually never worked in construction in their life.
Yeah, I always found even before it was my job, I was in I'm like a natural born leader, if you will,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
if there's something that I'm good at, I'm the first person to help the next person with it.
yeah,
And I think leading half of it is teaching, the other half is taking the stress away. Like
yeah,
and anything from exterior, you have to take the brunt of that. So the people that you're teaching are comfortable enough to learn. And I think that's a big one that everybody's got to wrap their head around. And, being a leader is not less work. It's way more work.
Yeah,
So
it is.
there's a responsibility from the people that are saying they want to learn, but there's also a big responsibility to the people that are teaching, where
Yeah.
it is a lot more work. And if you get frustrated, it's because you're doing a lot more work, but you have to kind of
Yeah.
focus on the finish line of what you're doing and then do it. Yeah,
Well, and I think
that's
too, not grabbing tools out of people's hands. I think that's a big one too, because you just naturally want to be like, no, you're doing this wrong.
yeah.
Or you want to like grab it out of you want to be like, no, 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 no. But you'll never learn unless you give the people the space to learn. So that's a hard part too, because you got to make money and you got to get things moving along and like, hey, come on, you're like costing me money here, man.
Yeah.
But you'll never learn unless you give them that space. So it's kind of tricky sometimes.
Absolutely. If you look at like what a headhunter does, they'll go find somebody that's like in our skill set and they'll go
Yeah.
find them for you, but it's like 20 grand or something. Like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's a pretty large percentage of the yearly income. And then so they get a chunk up front, and then once you last a certain amount of time, they get the rest of it. But if
Okay.
you take a look at that and go, okay, so I'm going to set aside even $5,000 in time that this person is going to waste, and
Yeah.
then get over it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
Because I
I
think,
am not going to guess.
yeah,
Yeah. Or
we're,
maybe like don't put them on a job that has a really harsh deadline that
yeah,
like I need to just sit here and I need to focus. I mean, you can't always do that because jobs are different and expectations are different. But if you can, it always makes sense to kind of like give them a menial job that that they can accomplish and feel accomplished doing, but then you're not having to babysit them and you can get your stuff done still that you need to get done for your deadlines.
yeah, you need to get people good at certain things and then allow them to do it, and then give them more difficult tasks to finish after. And
Yeah.
if they're, you have to let people fail.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
and you also have to give somebody something that when they fail, it's not like catastrophic to the site
Yeah.
either, right?
You're
Where
not like, you ruined the whole job. Just
that,
you
yeah,
cost me $15,000. Get out of here.
go do the closets. And
Yes,
if they're that,
exactly.
if
Oh, closets are the best.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
our garages, plazas and garages are perfect places to learn.
yeah,
And then you get everybody's lunch order figured out, and brooms and scrapers are great tools also.
yeah, there you
Um,
go.
but you do have to keep it fun, because if you just let somebody and you just hire them and you have them continually doing menial tasks, they're not going to last very long. They're going to be like, why am I coming to work to do this every day for 8 hours? This is so boring. So you do need to challenge them too, but there's risk also involved in that.
I remember making like next to nothing, or so it felt like it, but I was coming home with my tail wagging that like, oh, and then we did this today.
Yeah.
The money's not the big part. Now it is
No.
when you don't have any,
Yeah.
like for sure. But I talk about that quite a bit too. People that aren't happy in their job. How long does it take to master something realistically? 5 years. So if you quit
Yeah.
everything now, you could be happy doing what you want to do in 5 years from now. And not master it maybe, but like getting close enough that
Proficient.
proficient's a great word. Yeah.
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 Um, yeah, I just think, you might want to be in construction, go do a couple of different things in construction,
Yeah.
go
Well,
frame,
I
go
think
board, go tape.
there's a huge generation that missed out on it because, I
Huge.
graduated high school in 2002, and it literally was, what are you doing? If
Hmm.
you're not going to college, what are you doing? Like there was this big piece of paper in our senior hall where everybody wrote down what college they were going to. And it was like a big deal. Like, what school are you going to? And I went to school. I went to school for a semester, and I was just like, well, okay, everybody else is going to school. I can't not go to school because everyone looks down their nose at you because you're not
Hmm.
going to college. And then what we've done is we've created this whole generation of people that are like, dang, dude, I really missed out. I
Yeah.
hate sitting at this desk. I hate doing this paperwork. I hate whatever it is that they're doing. And then we have like people that are working on these projects on the weekends, and they're like, man, this is so incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah.
And it's like they're trying to figure out, well, how do I switch to this now? I'm 38. If I was to switch careers, that would be really daunting. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to be a taper forever. That's just,
Yeah.
it's in the blood. It's through and through me now. But
It's
um,
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm not doing anything else. But you know, when you look at people and they want to try, they want to like, I just feel bad for them because man, they didn't get that opportunity or that experience to really try something that probably was a great fit for them. It just wasn't socially acceptable.
I didn't get into, no, I was this size in high school, so I got into laboring pretty quick, just
Nice.
doing side stuff. But
Yeah.
I left high school and got right into sales, because I knew that
Nice.
school wasn't going to work for me. Uh,
Yeah.
the first time that I started building something, it just came so naturally to me that I was like, "Why? Where has this been?" And
Yeah.
if we had had that in high school, I would have walked right into a pair of work boots, and it just would have been the
Right.
thing to do. Yeah. So
And I think
yeah,
that's what's missing is there was some trade stuff, I think, when I went to high school. I don't remember. I think
it's
just
like
kind of the
wood
boys did
shop
wood
and
shop.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There was wood shop and there was you could like do automotive maybe or something like that.
Hmm.
But I mean, there's what's awesome is there's all these teachers now that have gone back that are starting to run these programs for kids in high school. There's CC, I think it's CCIC. They build tiny homes all the way start to
Oh, cool.
finish.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in Colorado, so they give them to they're for the homeless population there. So they'll
Nice.
go start to finish, and then there's oh, I actually can't remember his name. I have to look it up. Oh yeah, Matt Bloomquist. They build all the way from start to finish with their kids. So they'll go and
Cool.
they'll take off the afternoons and they'll go and like they'll do the drywall and then they'll move on to the flooring and then the painting and then like they're building the whole house.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, that's what we need. We need that in like every single school.
Hmm. Yeah, somebody does have to start. Again, that's going to be somebody's time is going to go into it.
Yeah, I
You
know,
know,
right? It's like over my head, but
yeah,
you know, you gotta,
I keep like half putting my hand up for some of this stuff, and I'm like, I'm so busy right now, anyways. But
I know, right? I
it's
know.
there has to be some sort of community where it's like, we've got this site and we're doing this and we're doing that, and ask every school if they've got 30 kids that have any sort of interest in it at all, and then have them
Yeah.
come by for a day even. Um,
Exactly. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Well, what's awesome is these guys are teachers at the schools and they're just running these programs. So it's
Hmm.
perfect. The kids that are interested can sign up. It's, you know, it's men, it's women, it's whoever wants to come and participate. And I just think it's so cool because you know that it's really satisfying for these
Yeah.
kids. And then there's NIACC, I think, and he's in Iowa. And then he has a college program that he's doing too.
Okay.
So it's really cool to see these guys that are in these places to kind of start implementing some of these programs that I don't know how school works. I can't like go in and be like, hey, I want to teach your kids how to drywall. They'd be like, there's the door, lady.
Yeah.
Like,
Do you have kids
yeah.
here for free labor? They would shoo you
Yeah,
away.
I know. Hey, can you give me your kids but they gotta sign waivers and they gotta make sure they have on like work clothes and
Yeah.
you know, kind of getting that all figured out. But yeah,
Awesome.
I think it's super cool to see it.
I think that's a good time for a break.
Yeah.
And then we'll be right back.